Bernard Lafayette Jr. spent much of his childhood in Tampa, Florida, but also lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the young Bernard first lived in an integrated community. At the age of 20, he moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and enrolled in the American Baptist Theological Seminary. During his freshman year, he took classes in nonviolence at the Highlander Folk School. He learned more about the philosophy of nonviolence as lived by Gandhi while taking seminars from activist James Lawson, a well-known nonviolent representative of the Fellowship of Reconciliation. In 1959, Lafayette, along with his fellow friends Diane Nash, James Bevel, and John Lewis, all members of the Nashville student movement, led sit-ins such as the 1960 lunch counter sit-in at restaurants and businesses that practiced segregation. As a strong advocate of nonviolence, Lafayette in 1960 assisted in the formation of a group known as the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. In 1961, the Congress of Racial Equality, or CORE, initiated a movement to enforce federal integration laws on interstate bus routes. This movement, known as the Freedom Rides, had African American and white volunteers ride together on bus routes through the segregated South. After the Freedom Riders were violently attacked in the city of Birmingham, Alabama, the Nashville student movement, of which Lafayette was a member, vowed to take over the journey. In May 1961 in Montgomery, Alabama, Lafayette and other riders were attacked at the bus terminal by an angry white mob and members of the Ku Klux Klan chapters. Their attackers carried every makeshift weapon imaginable: baseball bats, wooden boards, bricks, chains, tire irons, pipes, and even garden tools. The nonviolent teachings and beliefs of the Freedom Riders never wavered, and they refused to fight back.
There was a skinny young kid, and he was sort of dancing in front of this young woman, punching her, and I could see as she turned her head blood from the nose and mouth. I grabbed her by the wrist over the hood of the car, had her right at the door, and she put her hands up on the door jamb and said, "Mister, I don't want you to get hurt. I'm nonviolent. I'm trained to take this. Please don't get hurt. We'll be fine." And I said, "Get your ass in the car, sister." And at that moment, they wheeled me around and they hit me with a pipe.
During the Montgomery attack, Lafayette stood firm, and along with fellow riders was beaten unconscious. Lafayette and the Freedom Riders were arrested in Jackson, Mississippi and jailed at Parchman State Prison Farm in June 1961. In all, over 400 students and Freedom Riders would be locked away in the Delta Prison, their cells only feet away from the prison's death row. They may have been bowed, but were not broken.
We made up a song saying that buses are coming. And we sang it to the jailers to tell them and warn them to get ready, to be prepared, that we were not the only ones coming. So we started singing, "Buses are a-coming, oh yes. Buses are a-coming, oh yes. Buses are a-coming, buses are a-coming, buses are a-coming, oh yes." We say to the jailers, "Better get you ready, oh yes." The jailers say, "All right, shut up all that singing and hollering in here. This is not no playhouse, this is the jailhouse." So we said to ourselves, what are they going to do, put us in jail?
During Lafayette's participation in civil rights activities, he was beaten and arrested 27 times. In early 1965, Lafayette and others worked with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and organized a series of public demonstrations that finally put enough pressure on the federal government to take action and give enough support to President Lyndon Johnson for Johnson to demand the drafting and passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Dr. Lafayette went on to work on the 1966 Chicago Open Housing Movement, became ordained as a Baptist minister, and served as president of the American Baptist Theological Seminary. In 1973, Dr. Lafayette was named first director of the Peace Education Program at Gustavus Adolphus College, St. Peter, Minnesota. He was a senior fellow at the University of Rhode Island where he helped to found the Center for Nonviolence and Peace Studies. He is now serving as the Distinguished Senior Scholar in Residence at the Candler School of Theology at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia. This freedom rider used his voice to give life to a vision and hope for the future. The National Civil Rights Museum presents the 2012 National Freedom Award to Dr. Bernard Lafayette.